You're listening to Advanced Christianity Radio. Today's topic is aerial toll houses. The aerial toll house concept was recently made popular not too long ago in the last few decades by Father Saraphim, Eastern Orthodox priest. He claimed in one of his books to have experienced or have had visions of these aerial toll houses, which are basically toll houses set up by demons. When the soul dies, it has to pass the air realm, the space in between heaven, the space between earth and heaven is where the soul has to pass. And in that realm, there's demons that have these toll houses set up to test the soul and try to convince it of sin and drag it to hell. Now, of course, Western Christianity completely disregards the whole idea of aerial toll house. They look at it as complete nonsense. We'll get to Western Christianity in a whole nother post here. This is something ascribed to a certain percentage of Eastern Orthodoxy in the Eastern Orthodox Church, Eastern Christianity. Those who claim aerial toll houses were actually priests, mystics, and monks who claim to have either seen it in visions, have experienced it out of the body, or God showed it to them. Whereas those who claim it's all nonsense have no experience of it whatsoever, and they say because it's not in the Bible that it does not exist, is one of the accusations that has been made to me. Now, I've always been completely open to the concept of aerial toll house as being a possibility. I won't leave it out simply because the people who have talked about it and who have said that they do exist are highly respected in both Eastern and Western Christianity. People like Saint Anthony the Great, Saint Basil the New, Saint Theodora, Abba Isaiah. It's also in the Philokalia, which is the second most respected book next to the Bible in Eastern Orthodoxy, Eastern Christianity. I mean, there's just so much weight for the idea of aerial toll house that I had to take it seriously. And I also did find that in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they also describe similar aspects to that of aerial toll houses. The funny thing that happened personally to me was I had a friend who was in a car accident in North Carolina. He was a passenger, and the driver took the car beyond 100 miles per hour on a highway, which ended up in a collision. The driver died instantly, 21 years old, whereas my friend, who I knew since childhood, a personal friend of mine, also a Christian, had he had died in an accident and had a near-death experience where his soul was going up towards heaven, towards a light, towards a tunnel, and in the last minute was grabbed by his ankle and pulled into a torture chamber. And this torture chamber, many unspeakable acts by demons happened to him. He was tortured, thrown into a lake filled with piranhas, and so on and so forth, until he started praying. He prayed for Jesus to save him, in which event he was eventually rescued from this torture chamber by a bunch of angels who discussed whether he should continue on in the afterlife or go back to this world. And he eventually did come out of a coma and is still alive with us today, thus far, as of 2010. Well, that whole experience right there, having a personal friend described to me a reality in the afterlife, which was very similar to an aerial toll house. The aerial toll house theory definitely lent more credibility and weight to the possibility of this happening. I have one of my old teachers who I consider a fundamentalist, a fundamental dogmatic Western Christian, would argue with me for hours and hours on end that aerial toll houses are a bunch of BS. Basically, how do you know that? How do you know that So because something is not in the Bible does not mean that it does not exist. It seems what Western Christians are doing, which I will say for a whole nother post here. What Western Christians seem to be doing is, as long as something is in the Bible, that's the only thing that's true. Whereas within secular knowledge, in order to be a mechanic, we have to learn outside of the Bible. We have to learn how a car works. Well, the same principle goes with aerial toll houses. We have the situation where, because it's not in the Bible, it can't be true. And we just simply cannot go down that route of logic and reasoning. It definitely may be a possibility. And I mean, this leaves many doors open to other topics. What does it take to get past these aerial toll houses? How do we get past them? For example, my friend was a Christian who was still falling and going through the battle of the ups and downs of being a Christian, old ways versus new ways. And he himself, as a Christian, was dragged into a torture chamber by a demon, as he says it. So this begs the question, who is saved? What does it take to be saved? What does it take to be a Christian? Can we define who is and who isn't a Christian? Can we even make that definition? Is that our call? There's just so many theological questions that surround the possibility of aerial toll houses that, for the most part, people are just not looking at. We have this idea that as long as you have accepted Jesus as your Savior, like my friend who personally was in the car accident and experienced some kind of demonic torture chamber. Well, like him, we have in Western Christianity this idea that as long as we accept Jesus, we are saved. But my friend who accepted Jesus and supposedly was saved was in a torture chamber. That begs the question, what does saved mean? What does that mean? How can we be sure we are saved? I mean, it brings up numerical, philosophical, spiritual, theological questions just based on the possibility of these aerial toll houses, the same aerial toll houses that mystics, saints, theologians, hermits, and certain respected individuals within the church had said that God has shown them to be real, that they had seen through prayer from God out of their body in visions and also in near-death experiences. People have seen torture chambers in near-death experiences. So we cannot completely discredit the idea of the aerial toll house. It really well may be a reality that would require us to look into and reconsider what it means to be saved, what it means to be a Christian, what it means to have a safe passage to heaven. Can we experience heaven while we are still on earth? What does it mean to be a Christian? That's definitely something to ask. However, the main point of this post was the aerial toll house. It can definitely be a possibility, as we see. If you have some way to trump this possibility, please do post it. Please do discuss it. I am completely open to debating the aerial toll house possibility. Thank you for listening to these posts, these videos, and I welcome you to listen in to my future posts. This is, of course, an advanced Christianity series, set of principalities and sermons, all up for debate, all up for discussion, all up for critical thinking. I thank you again for stopping by.